Indian Motorcycles and Honda wiped the floor with Harley, and they didn't even break a sweat doing it. While Harley was busy tripping over its own so-called legacy, Honda was selling millions, and Indian was winning riders Harley abandoned. What should have been Harley's crown turned into their public execution. In the first half of 2025, Harley's global registrations collapsed by 27.7%, falling to just 72,938 units. People are calling it like a tsunami hitting the company, and honestly, that might be generous. A tsunami hits hard, but at least it's quick. Harley's collapse has been slow, painful, and humiliating. Now let's stack that disaster up against Honda. While Harley is crawling through the mud, Honda's smashing records like it's just another Tuesday. In the first half of 2025, Honda sold 9.9 million units. That's right, 9.9 million. That's not just a lead, that's an entirely different sport. And it's not like this is a fluke either. Honda closed out 2024 with 19.6 million sales, a 6% increase. They are climbing higher while Harley's digging their own grave. And then there's Indian. Sure, they're not pulling Honda numbers, not even close, but compared to Harley, they look like geniuses. Indian ended 2024 at 25,792 units and managed 13,988 in the first half of 2025, down 2.1%. Not great, but at least they're still breathing. Harley's not breathing, they're choking. Indian may be limping, but Harley's face down in the dirt pretending everything is fine. This is the scene right now. Harley craters, Indian limps, Honda soars. And the worst part? Harley acts like it's business as usual, like they didn't just get smacked off the podium by brands they used to laugh at. And it's not just global sales. Look at the US market. The whole motorcycle market is down in 2025? That's true. Year to date in June, sales were down 9.2% with 271,205 units sold. Monthly drops kept stacking. 6.3%, 5.6%, and then 11.4%. But here's the kicker. Harley is underperforming even in a declining market. It's one thing to fall when everyone's falling. It's another thing entirely to trip over your own feet while the other guys at least manage to land on their knees. Harley's Q1 shipments fell off a cliff, down 33%. Retail sales followed, dropping 21%. And the money? Their revenue from bikes and accessories cratered 27% to just $1.08 billion. That's when Harley had to suspend its annual forecast because, well, how do you give investors a number when you have no clue whether you'll even have customers next quarter? Meanwhile, Honda's laughing all the way to the bank. They sold around 400,000 units in the US in 2024. Harley? 95,000, that's it. The company that once owned American roads is now barely clinging to a fraction of its former glory. Honda's moving 400,000 bikes, Harley's barely moving 100,000. And Indian, even with its smaller base, is still fighting while Harley's hiding. Think about this. Harley once thought they were untouchable in the US. They thought they were the default choice, the bike of freedom and rebellion. Now their market share looks like Swiss cheese, full of holes and fading fast. Indian is at least pushing models to compete. Honda is pushing massive volume and innovations. Harley? Harley's just pushing excuses. And let's talk product strategy, because if you think Harley's sales numbers are bad, wait until you see how out of touch their bike lineup is. Harley tried bragging about the X440 in India back in 2023. Their cheapest bike, a collaboration with Hero MotoCorp. That's their big plan. Hitching themselves to another company just to scrape together a budget bike? That's not strategy, that's desperation. And even that wasn't enough to win hearts. Riders saw right through it. Half-Baked is putting it nicely. The X440 was like Harley handing riders a microwaved meal and calling it fine dining. Indian, on the other hand, actually rolled out real updates for 2025. Fresh engines, a wide spread of price tiers, new features, and buzz that got people talking. Indian's models weren't just recycled with new paint jobs, they actually felt like progress. Riders could see Indian at least cared about keeping things exciting. Harley's idea of innovation, by comparison, was refinements. Change nothing, pretend it's new, and hope nobody notices. Everyone noticed. And the pricing side makes Harley look even worse. Indian's Chieftain Limited Power Plus comes in at $30,500. Harley Street Glide 117 M8 is $27,750, a difference of $2,750. But here's the thing. Indian justifies its higher price. Riders are happy to pay more for next-gen tech, performance, and appeal. Harley Street Glide is cheaper, sure, but it looks cheaper too. Riders don't want to discount Harley when they can get a premium Indian that actually feels worth the money. Harley's supposed to be the brand that defined cool, but right now they're the bargain bin option. And then there's Honda, who doesn't even need to play in Harley's price cage. Honda dominates the world by offering everything, from entry-level commuters to powerful sport bikes, across every range. They're affordable, reliable, and everywhere. Harley can't compete with that scale. Honda is putting out millions of bikes, flooding every market, while Harley can't even keep a straight face about their own numbers. So, where are we at? Harley's global sales down nearly 28%, Honda's sales climbing past 9.9 million in just 6 months. Indian hanging in at nearly 14,000 units in the same time frame. Harley's US shipments down a third. Retail sales down 21%, revenue down 27%. Honda moving 400,000 bikes in America. Harley scraping 95,000. Indian updating their lineup with fresh features and engines. Harley recycling tired models and calling them new. Indian charging more but delivering more. Harley charging less but still looking like a scam. And Honda? Honda's just showing up with a sledgehammer and wiping the floor with both of them. And the funniest part is Harley still tries to spin it like they're fine, like nothing's wrong. Riders see through it. Investors see through it. The entire motorcycle world sees through it. Harley's not fooling anyone. When your competitors are innovating, dominating, and winning rider loyalty, and you're hemorrhaging customers, you don't get to pretend everything's okay. Harley's not leading anymore, they're barely following. Harley really thought they could coast forever on the fumes of legacy, like slapping "since 1903" on a tank was enough to hypnotize every rider into sticking around. But the truth is, riders today don't care about some dusty museum history when the bikes in front of them look stale and overpriced. Harley missed younger riders completely. They had decades to pivot, decades to evolve. But instead, they doubled down on their premium-only arrogance. And now, they're culturally depleted, out of touch, and even their own investors are calling them out. H Partners, one of Harley's activist investors, is demanding leadership changes because even the money people can see this ship as being steered into an iceberg. When Wall Street is roasting you as badly as your own riders, you've officially lost the plot. Meanwhile, look at Indian. They didn't just cling to nostalgia, they actually respected it while pushing innovation. Under Polaris, Indian managed to find the sweet spot between heritage and relevance. Their bikes still carry that Americana muscle, but they also bring tech, variety, and a lineup that feels alive. Riders see Indian as a brand that knows its history but doesn't live in the past. Harley could have done that. Instead, Harley treated their heritage like a crutch, hobbling forward and hoping no one would notice the limp. And riders noticed. If you're noticing too, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and join the ride because this roast is just getting started. Honda doesn't even bother playing the heritage card. They don't need to. They're out here breaking records like it's routine. Over 10 million units a year. 10 million? Think about that scale compared to Harley's pathetic 72,938 in the first half of 2025. Honda's legacy isn't frozen in time, it's being written every year with record-breaking numbers and global dominance. They don't have to remind you they're legendary, they prove it with results. Harley's refusal to evolve left them flailing in a shrinking market, while Honda continues to expand into every corner of the world. Harley clings to its history like a security blanket, but it's just not working anymore. And then we get to Harley's dealer and global strategy, which honestly looks more like a comedy of errors. Remember when Harley pulled out of India in 2020 because they couldn't cut it? They tucked their tail and left one of the fastest growing markets in the world. That move alone was embarrassing, but the punchline came later. Now they're crawling back into India via Hero MotoCorp, like the ex who swore they'd never return but shows up again because rent's too high. Riders can smell desperation, and that's exactly what this half measure reeks of. Compare that to Indian and Honda. Indian continues growing its dealer network in North America, actually strengthening its footprint in the US market where Harley is supposed to be the king. Honda, on the other hand, doesn't just dominate at home, they're everywhere, especially in emerging markets, where Harley once dreamed of planting flags, but instead planted excuses. Honda builds dominance with consistency and expansion. Harley builds press releases and calls it a strategy. And let's not ignore the stats. Harley's market share collapse isn't limited to one country, it's global humiliation. Down 20.7% in North America, down 36% in Western Europe, down a jaw-dropping 66% in India. That's not just slipping, that's falling flat on your face in every direction. It proves Harley's failures aren't isolated, they're systemic. Meanwhile, Honda's H1 sales via Hero in India remain strong, showing what an actual partnership looks like when executed properly. Harley's retreat, followed by a half-hearted comeback, just reinforces how badly they botched their international game plan. It's not a global strategy, it's a global comedy. And now we land on the so-called comeback Harley plotted. Except instead of coming back, they rolled out trash-tier bikes like the Sprint. A $6,000 half promise with no specs, no details, just hype. Riders don't want teasers, they want bikes that actually exist. Bikes that feel worth the money. Harley gave them vaporware. And while Harley was fumbling, Indian and Honda were busy taking real action. Indian may not be thriving at Honda's level, but they're consistent and riders can feel that. Honda, of course, is just smashing records left and right, proving there's no excuse for Harley's failures. This isn't even a fair head-to-head anymore. It's Harley shooting themselves in the foot, reloading, and then shooting the other one. Indian and Honda don't even have to fight dirty. Harley does the damage for them. Indian brings better bikes, Honda brings better volume, and Harley brings empty promises. The contrast couldn't be clearer. And here's the sad truth. Harley keeps sitting on legacy like it's enough. But riders don't buy legacy, they buy motorcycles. Harley makes excuses while rivals grab opportunities. Indian respects the culture Harley abandoned. Honda breaks records Harley can't even dream about anymore. The brand that once roared is now bleeding out, and every misstep just makes the wound wider.